everybody? We are live. Tuesday, January 29th. I am back from a nice little break in Boston for a couple days. And Laffy and I have an actual real slate to talk about for the first time in a while. 7-gamer on a Tuesday. Better than yesterday's slate. Craziness.
Dude, this is very unique. Very unique. Actually, the one time that there was a big slate, I wasn't on the show with you a couple like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a Tuesday, or it was a Thursday. I just was not here.
Correct.
But yeah, 7 games. A lot of people probably licking wounds after Trey Burke did what Trey Burke generally does. Trey Burke is never good.
No, it always seems to burn people. I did not have my eye on the prize yesterday. I didn't play. I haven't played since Friday. So I saw some murmurings of things not going well for Burke yesterday. But
yeah,
I've been out of the loop.
Murmurs, you say, huh?
What? I went to bed relatively early, so they were only murmurs at the time.
Right. Yeah.
They were downgraded to aggressive anger. After
exactly. The Jokic fade worked out nice though. I mean, it felt like a spot where you could get away from him. Lou Williams shot 4 for 17 and still had 40 fantasy points.
Jesus.
Which is pretty impressive. Al Horford, really solid. So I think it was still very possible to have a good night, even with Burke, because of his ownership. And Tim Hardaway Jr., we're big on him in the deeper dive. Not a huge game, but a lot better than Burke.
He got out of the gate pretty hot, right?
Oh, big time, dude. Yeah, he had like 10, 4, and 1 in the first quarter, I think.
Yeah. It was right about at that point where I was just like, all right, time to go to bed. Not at 1 o'clock and at 8:30. We got a ton to talk about today. We're going to hit it first with housekeeping. NBA Strategy is the promo code. 50% off your first month with us. Any package of your choosing, you'll get 50% off the first month. That includes stuff with Fantasy Cruncher. So if you're looking to check us out, NBA Strategy is the promo code to use. Hit that like button if you're here. Very beneficial to us. It's always great when people hit the like button. The big like, and it makes us feel good watching those numbers grow. Not going to lie. And shout out to Thrive Fantasy. Not a sponsor for today, but we love them all the same. 7 games, and we are starting. We're not getting out of the gates particularly quick. These 7 o'clock games are not appealing. They all look very similar, really similar implied totals in all 3 games. Favorites on the road in all 3 games. Let's just get it. You ready?
Yep.
The Cleveland Cavaliers hosting the Washington Wizards. 106 implied total for the Cavs. 113 for the Wizards. If I told you that John Wall was out, and Dwight Howard was out, and Markieff Morris was out, and this is at the beginning of the season, and that the Wizards were still 7-point favorites in Cleveland, would you have assumed they made some sort of like blockbuster deal?
Yeah, no question. I mean, yesterday I found it equally interesting that that the Clippers were only 6-point favorites over the Hawks, and the Hawks beat them outright.
Yeah.
Like I know the Clippers are dealing with injuries, but it's still the Atlanta Hawks on the road traveling, 3,000 miles.
Yeah. It's craziness.
And they ended up beating them. Denver Nuggets came back from like a 22-point deficit. Man, that Grizzlies team is dreadfully bad.
Yes, they are.
And the Warriors?
There are a lot of dreadfully bad teams in this league right now.
Yeah, certainly are. The Warriors are just frighteningly good. It's at this rate. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, and don't worry, I'm not going to spend time on this. I'm going to jump right into it. I was just thinking about it. Like when it comes to the Golden State Warriors, they have to okay. How rare is it that in any sport like a team not favored against the field, but actually favored like to win a finals. Like they're minus 190 to win against 29 other teams. That's pretty wild.
It's nuts. And the craziest part of it all is that I think they can withstand an injury.
Oh, no question. No question. Maybe two.
The only one that would give me pause would be Curry. Otherwise, I think they're fine.
I'm with you. They'd already been doing it without Cousins, and he looks to have.
Oh shit! I'm not even counting him. Like he's icing on the cake.
Right, but that's serious icing.
Yeah,
and he's settled in quite nicely. I'll tell you that much. I mean, you have to like what you're getting from him.
Yeah.
Anyway, jumping into it. Which game do we start? Well, Washington, Cleveland.
Is there a single Cav you want to talk about?
Quick answer, no. Short answer is, does Djigic play another however many minutes? And even if he does, how do you justify paying? He's $6,000 on DraftKings now, $6,100.
Yeah, 65 on FanDuel. I understand in a pace-up spot where I have him in for 32 minutes. He's like a point per minute guy. I understand having some if you're max entering. I could see having him if you're in like not like FanDuel runs 20 maxes or anything, but if they did, I could see having him in one. But very little appeal here. The
Chetty's
rotation of this game,
a lot of minutes.
Yeah, like Chetty for 5,400 on FanDuel is again fine, but he's a 0.75 guy. Really, it's just
he's been terrible.
It's wholly unappealing outside of the fact that I don't know, like they have to play. Like they're going to play 240 minutes at the minimum.
Yep.
It's the only redeeming quality of the Cavs.
That's really it. And I know we say this a lot, but like with this Cavs team, you have guys like Clarkson and Burks and Hood.
Yeah, like is Hood a guy at 4K on DK?
Well, see, that's the thing. They're all just so damn similar, right? Yeah. Like Hood at 4K, I'm sure you could yes, you truly could do worse than Hood at 4K. You could. There's no question. Like I could pull up just a position on DraftKings and say, who's better, Rodney Hood or Terrence Ferguson? Like there are definitely worst plays.
Pour one out for Rodney Hood's career. Jesus.
Tell me about it. Him and Burks and Clarkson, wow, and Sexton, 4 of them are all so similar in that they all rely on scoring. And I just hate targeting guys that rely so heavily on being forced to score in order to give you anything. Clarkson is like, if I knew Clarkson was getting 30 minutes, I'd actually really like him tonight because he's at least someone that most nights isn't going to ruin all of your lineups. But you can't say the same about Alec Burks, even though he's looked good lately. That's the thing, though, Josh, and I don't want to spend too much time on Cleveland, but if you look at these guys, like as you pointed out, you still have to get the minutes in there. They are still playing significant minutes because they have to. It's just, do you want to continue playing roulette with them? Because that's pretty much what you're going to have to do, being that 4 of them are so similar as archetypes. They're so similar. And we're only seeing a 10-man bench, but does that matter?
I don't think so. I'd be shocked if I have anybody from Cleveland today. Bankroll challenge still moving forward, so I'm playing on DK, and if I have a Cav in my lineup, I'll be very shocked by that.
Okay. In terms of how I see it right now, do I have any of these guys as top value? Believe it or not, I'm just simple filter by point per dollar value.
Yeah.
And you know who actually pops up first before any of them? It would be Djigic. And that's at 6,100.
Yeah. I get it.
Pretty crazy though when you think about it.
Oh,
when you have guys like Hood and them at 4K or around it.
I haven't looked at the entire slate of centers yet, but that's like the one spot where you don't really need him. On DK, there's usually a wealth of potential power forward center type guys. So even that ends up looking less appealing as you work your way through it. Now, again, like I said, I haven't looked at the just filtered by center yet today, so today could be a different day, but it generally isn't that. It's just easier to avoid them.
Yep. If I'm looking by center, I have him around 8th or so. Yeah, so nowhere near the top. It is interesting though, because if you are MMEing and you're playing a lot of lineups and you're looking at this team against Washington, whose defenses look better lately, but they're still not imposing. You say, all right, Ken Hood or Burke or Sexton or one of these guys, Clarkson, are they worth it? At this point, for me, it would be like if they this is the first game we've gone through. We haven't gone through 7 games.
Right.
If there's not a lot of value, sure, but my guess is considering we have 7 games, we're going to have enough value to where we really don't need to do it.
Yeah. I have Zizic or Jizic, whatever, I have him as my 9th center in what looks to be an 8 center tier, if that helps.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. He's one spot behind what I would consider to be relevant.
There you go.
I'm just going to call him Ante because I know that I can say that. Let's look at the Wizards where
was it you that I corrected on the show, or was that Stafford? Because I always correct his pronunciation with immense joy, with unbelievable pleasure.
You've never got me.
So why can't you? So what do you have? What's your problem with Jijic?
Because I see Z's and say Z's.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue that one.
I read it.
Can you just see Z's and say J's?
No, not naturally.
Because the easy thing about it is it's double J. It's not like having to remember which one of the Z is actually a Z and which one of the Z's is actually a J. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the problem is I just don't get there before the first Z gets out.
Right. Okay. So you're like Zijic.
Yep, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's just Ante now.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Call him AZ. AZ has a nice ring to it.
I like that.
Or AJ, to be fair.
Okay. Yeah, it's not like, it's just one of those things where my first reaction is to read that. We have 100 something names to look at it in a given day. Mm-hmm. As I'm pouring through that, my first reaction, like my natural inclination, is to read that off in like the way that you would normally read it in English, which are Z's.
Right. Yep.
And that's just one that doesn't naturally give me J's either. That doesn't come up in general conversation all that much.
Right. Well, if you even considered that, each team say uses 10-man rotation, some more than that, you're talking around 140 players just on this slate. Not all of whom we're going to talk about, but you need to know them.
All I can picture when we're talking about this ZJ nonsense is Beer Fest. What's a ZJ? If you have to ask, you can't afford it.
I wish I remembered, man. I don't. I mean, of course I've seen Beer Fest, but that's not a quotable movie for me. I don't remember.
Jay Chandrasekhar is like whoring his body out at the beginning of the movie before they pick him up to like go back to the drinking team, and he's just offering sexual favors to everybody in the car, and ZJ was one of them.
Okay.
Anyway, let's talk Wizards, where
move it on.
While it is a pace down spot for the Wiz, they are getting a date with just probably the worst defensive team in basketball, and
easily the worst defensive team in basketball.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said probably. They are at 9. Oh, here's how bad it is. They give up fantasy points on a per possession basis, 9% worse than average. The next closest team is the Knicks at 6%. If you're looking for how big of a chasm there are between 1 and 2.
Yep. Defensive rating, 116.9. Knicks are 29th in the league at 113.2. That's really not good.
Nope.
Cavs play at the second slowest pace in the league, so there is that.
Yeah.
But it makes it, it's even more telling when you consider that the Cavs are allowing the 7th most points per game, because You literally are playing at the second slowest pace in the entire league, but you're so bad defensively that you allow such a high efficiency on, per possession efficiency as we've seen, which is kind of amazing.
It's nuts. They're dreadful, man. They're so dreadful.
They're the worst team in basketball.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I just hope they don't get Zion, but that's neither here nor there. Tired of them winning the damn lottery.
I know, man. But if they keep drafting guys like what was it? Bennett.
Yeah.
Keep drafting guys like Bennett, we'll be okay.
Hell, you can make a case that Andrew Wiggins is a worse draft pick than Anthony Bennett because at least you don't get wrapped into another dog shit contract.
The Kevin Love contract?
Well, no. I mean, if they keep, Wiggins was another one of those picks. He didn't ultimately make it to the Cavs, but I think I'd rather have 3 years of Bennett on a rookie deal than have to extend Andrew Wiggins for the max.
No, I'm saying, but didn't that go through that was the Kevin Love trade?
Yeah, ultimately he ends up in Minnesota as part of the Love trade. What I mean is, like, you get roped into having Wiggins for X amount of years. It looks like a good pick in theory because he's still in the NBA, but in all actuality, he's paid $10+ million more than he should be each year.
Oh yeah, Wiggins
forever.
Wiggins has not lived up to the hype.
No,
definitely better than Bennett, but so about those Wizards.
I wonder if he really is better than Bennett, but that's a bigger discussion.
Nah, he's better, dude. Bennett.
I don't mean talent. I mean relative to salary earned. He might end up becoming a bigger net negative than Anthony Bennett.
Oh, dude,
it's a weird way to look at it. But he could be so far under what you're supposed to be to make $30-something million in a year that he loses more value by playing than Anthony Bennett does by just evaporating from the earth.
It's possible, but no one will ever see it that way because you're talking about the worst draft pick maybe ever. Like, definitely the worst draft pick, in the worst first overall draft pick in basketball.
Oh yeah, 100%.
This guy's made $17 million in the NBA from doing nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, Wiggins is going to make twice that this year for doing the same thing.
Remember, too, the Timberwolves took Bennett on as well.
They did indeed. Salary filler.
They paid him a total of $9.5 million across 2 seasons.
Oh yeah, brutal.
That's like paying me $9 million for 2 seasons with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, I wish they would.
Crazy, I tell you.
Bradley Beal, 10-1 on FanDuel, 9,200 on DraftKings, $40 on Yahoo. I will happily pay that price. It's a really high price tag for Bradley Beal, but at the same time, you'll have a hard time finding spots that look this good.
Yeah, so the one thing for me is I always want to, for some reason specifically with Beal, it's like, all right, who's priced around Bradley Beal that either makes me more or less interested?
Yes.
So we'll do that just real quick. You've got Jimmy Butler against the Lakers in the Staples Center. He's returning from that injury. He's 6,900 on DraftKings. Like, I don't think that's terrible, but I'm also not happy about it because he just hasn't been producing the numbers that you need from him, especially with this team healthy. And Joel Embiid is going to play today. You have D. Russ against the Chicago Bulls. And then you've got guys like Devin Booker at San Antonio. Drew Holiday is the interesting one, right? At Houston. We know Anthony Davis. By the way, dude, I don't want to. We get sidetracked too often, but this is on.
Well, we already did 5 minutes on Anthony Bennett, so we might as well just keep going.
Yeah. You're talking about like, oh, I don't want to re-sign this and that. I want to trade blah, blah, while you're injured, like while you can't even play. Come on, dude. Come on. Like, get back on the court first, and then start talking about that. We all know you're a phenomenal player, but get on the court. Anyway, the point being, Drew Holiday is another guy that I just think will continue to be really strong until Anthony Davis returns, and I don't really care whether or not Randle plays today. I don't think it makes a huge difference. Mirotic is already out.
Yeah.
So, no, I do like Bradley Beal here. There's no doubt that I like him. Do I dislike the stark decrease in pace? Yeah, it should be made up for just given how bad Cleveland's defense is.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's crazy, and it might sound crazy, but I really don't think it's crazy to look to Satoransky here if you wanted to get like backcourt exposure without going to Bradley Beal. Like I think Satoransky can have a very strong game here, and while you're not getting him at the 3,800 that we were right when John Wall went out, 6K flat on DraftKings is not that bad. It's a very, very inviting spot, and he's still priced reasonably because he's been producing.
Oh man, that one's so tough. He's been better lately. 0.94.
He's been a lot better, man.
Over
like
the last 30 days.
I mean, if you're talking about upside, you talk about a ceiling. You know, he's got 47, 47. So two games of 46.75 over his last 4, and then a 30.5, then a 54.4, with 54.5, and then he mixes some subpar games in there. And that, I mean, obviously Satoransky is going to have some disappointing games, but just the one thing that I found very interesting about him, look at Satoransky's assists recently. They've picked up in a big way, Josh. And if I'm relying on that, which, you know, they're important, I want to know that the peripherals can be there. Satoransky is, so I was looking up potential assists, like, where does Satoransky sit over his last 8 games where he's played really well in potential assists? Is he getting lucky? And it's just, you know, they're knocking down every one of these opportunities, or is he actually seeing a ton of them? 13.6, I'd say somewhere in the middle, but you could still average around 8 assists, 7 assists per game on that. He's picking up peripherals, man. Look at his steals. I think there is upside here just based on the counting stats he's providing, and he's playing 36, 38, 39 minutes. Look, I don't like him as a player any more than you do, but if you're getting that many minutes from him against Cleveland and he's getting it done in different categories, I think Satoransky is a perfectly reasonable play.
I ran 200 lineups on a crunch this morning and had my generic exposures for each player already in. I got 15% Satoransky, and I don't want that number to go any higher than that.
Yeah, but 15 sounds like a very reasonable number.
Yeah. That is where I am comfortable being at a peak. Let's see. We have ownership now. Let's check and see.
I'm not telling you to jam in 70% Satoransky. Don't get it.
No, I
don't
know.
Get that one twisted. What I'm saying is, at that price, I don't see it being prohibitive. I'll put it that way.
Do you think this is the type of game that benefits him?
I mean,
like his play style. Does playing the Cavs benefit him more or less in any sort of fashion? Am I making sense?
Yes and no. Like if it doesn't benefit him, it doesn't benefit Bradley Beal.
Well, they are two very different people. Beal's going to have a 30-something% usage rate, and Satoransky's going to have a 15%.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You're still relying on possessions. You're still relying on offensive possessions.
Sure.
So what's the real difference? Like if it takes assist for facilitating opportunities away from Satoransky, you could argue that it takes scoring opportunities away from Beal or Ariza or Green. I mean, I just don't see how it makes a bigger difference for Satoransky than it does for Beal.
Oh, I don't know. That's sort of where I was going. I don't really know. We know that the Cavs are a bad defense. I wonder how that bad defense would be like piecemealed up to get to the bad. Is it a scoring problem? Is it a rebounding problem that is weighted higher? Is it a turnover problem or something like that?
Well, that's why I rarely use fantasy points allowed.
Right.
I mean, I had somebody, I forget who it was, saying like, why do you use pace and defensive efficiency, or why do you use these different stats to see how they perform against a team when you could just use fantasy points per minute? Well, it's like,
because we want them to be right.
Yeah, right. Okay, let's assume that this team allows the most fantasy points per game, right? and you could say to a position, let's say to a position. Okay, well, let's take it a step further and we'll assume that is because efficiency-wise, they cough up a ton of open threes. They cannot defend. Just from on a scoring standpoint, they get it done. No. Let's say they lead the league in turnovers, right? They lead the league in turnovers. They cannot box players out. They get killed on the glass, and they get their shot blocked all the time. Well, that's a whole lot less productive or beneficial for an Andrew Wiggins, than it is for a Rajon Rondo, who, can rack up steals, can rebound for his position. Like, just because a team allows fantasy points to a position, you don't know if the bulk of those, and obviously it's going to be to some extent level, but not enough. It does not tell the whole story whatsoever. You have to get different stats in order for those fantasy points to be worth anything. And with certain players, it's not the stats you're looking for. So I just think it's a really misleading stat.
Yeah, I don't ever look at it. I know it's not particularly relevant for me.
No,
I don't even. You need to know who is being classified at those positions in the play-by-play data that is building off those positional rates to begin with, which could.
Yep.
Like, what does
for
Ben Simmons get classified as in a defensive sense for the Sixers? That changes the way that those numbers look.
Exactly. And not only where he's classified, but who is guarding specific players. If Kawhi Leonard is playing, if Kawhi Leonard's playing the Thunder, he might guard Paul. If he's playing Houston, he might guard Harden. So, the Toronto Raptors' ability to defend opposing small forwards is only as good and only tells you as much as who is going to be defending him. I will use it at one position, and that is center, because I think it's a lot easier to glean information from that.
Yeah.
Aside from that, it's real tough unless I know exactly who's going to be guarding him. But just the fantasy points allowed thing can be very misleading. There's a lot of noise.
Totally agree. I'm in for Beal. I am unfortunately in for some Satoransky. It makes me less happy than it should, but I just don't feel like I ever get him right. When we talk shit about him and completely ignore him, he drops a 50 burger. And when I think that he's a fantastic play, it's the game that he puts up 8.
Yep. Oh yeah, there's no question that
I'm gonna get that dude wrong regardless.
Yeah, he's definitely capable of doing it.
I got 40% Bradley Beal on my first crunch.
40%, you said?
I did. We have him projected for 8% ownership, so I can safely bring that number down a bit. I'd want to be more in like the 25 range.
But still get above the field.
I'm going to be well above the field of Bradley Beal at this rate.
I think all of the guys for Washington, or a lot of them, are just, if you get them, like you did with Satoransky, other than Beal. I think it's, so we can move on here, I think a lot of it is, if you get them, you're okay with it. And that's not trying to take a wishy-washy approach. I'm not trying to like toe the line. It's just Ariza and Porter are both 6'3", 6'2", respectively. Satoransky 6K flat. And then like got Thomas Bryant, who you're going to be hard pressed to convince me to play Bryant, but 5,500. They're all in that price range where if you were to get them in lineups, you're not actively forcing them out, but you're not really happy about it. I think Satoransky would be my preferred here, but all of them, none of them are top plays, and I think it's that it makes it a little bit easier.
Satoransky was 4th for me. Beal 1st, Otto Porter 2nd, and Jeff Green 3rd. I think this is a Jeff Green game a little bit.
Oh yeah,
I could be wrong. 4,700. I could, if he gets north of 30 minutes, which is up in the air for Jeff Green, he's somewhere between 20 and 35 basically every game.
I swear, if anybody says revenge game for Jeff Green, I'll lose my mind.
Yeah, no.
He's played on 700 teams. He's played for Seattle. I mean, come on now. And no matter how bad Washington is, you certainly aren't looking for revenge for getting out of Cleveland.
No. I have some interest in Jeff Green.
All right.
And we're projecting 3% ownership, so I do not exactly have to be aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think this will all, for me at least, it'll all come together a little bit more once we get through all of these games and we can, see really where all of the value's coming from, and if it is a day where we can pay dirt cheap, or where and obviously we've done preliminary research, but until you really dig deep into it, you're not seeing the full picture.
Agreed.
Which is why we do this show. It helps us as well as the viewers, right? We kind of evolve through the slate as we go throughout the show.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You ready to move on here?
Please.
It's not getting
better. But by the way,
it's not
Josh,
getting better here.
The reason I say it, value is not very deep right now.
It is
like
not.
Actual good value. It's not deep right now.
It's not going to get any better here. The Detroit Pistons hosting the Milwaukee Bucks. Very similar outlook to this game. 106 implied total for the Pistons, same as the Cavs. 112.5 for the Bucks, essentially the same as the Wizards. The difference here is that the Pistons are the benefactors of a bit of a pace-up spot. When we talk about the Pistons, it's generally easiest to talk about Griffin and Drummond as a duo. Blake now $900 more expensive on FanDuel. He is $800 more expensive on DraftKings, and a ridiculous $16 more expensive on Yahoo. I actually like Drummond a bit here on FanDuel and on Yahoo. It feels like a really good matchup for him unless Milwaukee plays him off the floor.
I don't buy into the playing Drummond off the floor thing. I've had this conversation with Adam a lot. To me,
I don't think they can. I'm just saying, like, that's my only barrier. That
right.
Brook Lopez knocks down like 4 threes out of the gate, and it's like, well, shit. Now do we play Blake at the 5?
Right, not happening.
Yeah.
Actually, they've played each other 3 times this season, and the one game I think Brook Lopez finished with 0 points. My thing is, you're gonna give, like, okay, you have the best rebounder, and this is not hyperbole. You literally have the best rebounder in the game on the court, right? Yep. We'd agree on that.
Yes.
Excuse me. So, are you really going to take him off because Brook Lopez is getting up a few opportunities? Now, he scored 3 points against Detroit the second meeting. The first meeting, he scored 6 points. And then in the last meeting, he scored 25 points, okay, with 3 rebounds on 7 for 13 shooting, 7 for 12 from deep. Andre Drummond still played his 30 minutes in that game, but also, mind you, that was a massive blowout. So did Brook Lopez, did his performance have something to do with the game blowing out? It's very possible. Forgive me for not remembering that specific game, but it still is never. The way I see it, taking Drummond off the court is almost never going to actually help you, unless it's just somebody is like, unless really Brook Lopez is getting the ball, every other possession and knocking down threes, because you lose rebounding. So then your offensive rebounding is way worse. You know what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
But it does look, there's no way. Did Drummond really close that? Let me see. I think Popcorn Machine screwed this one up.
Certainly possible.
No, I screwed it up. My guess, though, Josh, is that he did not play I have it right here. Sorry. Did he play in the fourth quarter? Andre Drummond did not play. Played the entire third quarter. Didn't see a single second in the fourth. They were down by 28 going into the fourth quarter. So
that'll do it.
It's a roundabout way of saying I agree with you that Drummond has significant value here. Price wise, you're not paying a premium for him. At least 85 on DraftKings, 91 on FanDuel. I think it's a perfectly fine spot. But the interesting thing is, while he hasn't been played off the court in terms of losing the minutes, he has performed oddly really bad against Milwaukee this year in 3 games. For what it's worth, it might be nothing.
Yeah, 28.75 in 38 minutes.
Yeah.
32.5 in 34 minutes.
Right. So he won't come off the court, but could you make an argument that Brook Lopez pulls him away from the basket? That's probably a discussion we could have.
Yeah.
He
It's
actually
weird. He
had
grades out well for me. He came up in 0 lineups on DraftKings on my 200 lineup crunch.
Yeah, I don't see myself personally getting to him. I think it'd be really tough to do. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. I won't count the Philly one because that was 21 minutes and he had 9 rebounds. So 4 games with single-digit rebounds this year. 2 of those 4 came against the Milwaukee Bucks, interestingly enough. It could just be noise, very possible. Could be that Brolo pulls him away from the basket, but it might be a stay away spot. I don't expect him to lose minutes, but it seems to be an area where he has struggled. And how much does it have to do with Brook Lopez? We don't know.
No.
But as you just pointed out, you're still not really getting any of them, so you're not going to force him in there.
Any Blake?
I just want his price to come down a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, $10K on FanDuel is a little rich. He is playing well, no question. I would prefer Blake over Drummond, but I still don't think I'm getting to Blake either.
I got him in 2 of 200.
There you go. There you go. Yep.
I also need to point out that I got absolutely 0 Giannis.
Is that right? Okay.
That one is usually that's a bit less palatable for me.
I'm actually not surprised. I think we actually talked about this same matchup with Giannis on the strategy show earlier this year. Detroit has been a team that has been difficult on him.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons obviously is that Andre Drummond does such a phenomenal job of just gobbling up a ton of rebounds.
Yeah.
Right? But there are a few other things that stood out to me, and I feel like the fact that, Detroit allows the fewest second chance points in the league this year. They've done a very good job of limiting fast break points. They're allowing the 6th fewest fast break points. All of that, they do allow a decent amount of points in the paint, but defensively, Detroit's really not a god-awful team, and I think they do a decent job of kind of just clogging up lanes and making it a little bit more difficult for Giannis to drive and get rebounds. So while he'd have a good game by anyone else's standards, for Giannis, it hasn't really been that great.
Yeah, he's got a big price tag to pay off too. And you need every bit of it in one of those games. I think that he can be fine. I'm having trouble seeing a monster here.
Yeah.
Middleton, Bledsoe, Brogdon are the 3 guys I got the most in this game. You have a preference between any of these 3? I don't think we have anybody to really talk about from the Pistons, even though Reggie Bullock is out and we have a ton of minutes to go around, but I'm not really sure if I want to start prioritizing all of these awful wings of the Pistons.
I really don't have much interest.
I like them all on FanDuel as like drop score punt type flyers if you're playing a bunch of lineups.
Throw like a Luke Kennard in there or some nonsense, but it's really, with that, it's just a hope and a prayer.
Yeah, Luke Kennard, Stanley Johnson, Bruce Brown, Langston Galloway. I don't have a problem using those guys on FanDuel because there's no real loss, and they, in a pace-up spot, one of them could catch and give you 30 fantasy points, and it becomes not your drop.
Right.
Good luck picking who it is.
Right. No, I don't have an issue with the guys that you just rattled off. I feel like by the way, Giannis has 2 career 50+ fantasy point games against the Pistons. I really don't like looking at that, as an indicator for future results, but it's just, I don't know, it's always stood out to me. He's had trouble against this team. I'm sure he'll smash tonight. With the Bucks, they've always, to me, they're just one of those squads where, like Bledsoe on DraftKings at 7K, that's not cheap, right? It's not that cheap. 7K on FanDuel's more palatable,
Yeah.
but it's not super cheap. Brogdon's probable. It'd be cool if he wasn't playing, but he's playing. 5,800, I don't have an issue with it. Really, all of these guys are like secondary or tertiary plays to me, and that includes Giannis and includes Drummond.
Oh, yeah, I don't disagree. We have very little ownership on Bledsoe to start, so I could roll back mine. Middleton is the guy that I got the most here. I got him a little bit more than I actually would like to get him. We're projecting him at 14% ownership. I got 30. I don't really want to be double there, but I assume that I'll end up over. 64 is just feels like a nice price tag. How's he been lately? Not great. A lot of games in the 20s. And that's what's
who is that?
Middleton.
Sorry, who is that?
Middleton. That's how you end up with a price at 6,400, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you've got Reggie Jackson. Like, Reggie just having a rough season, but
yeah,
how much or how cheap are you willing to go? Ish Smith has already been ruled out.
Yeah.
Reggie Jackson, if he plays 30, he actually played 35 minutes last game for what it's worth. I'm never excited about Reggie Jackson. I'm not sure anyone should ever be excited about playing Reggie Jackson.
No.
Because Reggie Jackson just isn't very good. But he played 35 minutes in regulation last game. I mean, is that repeatable? Maybe. I wish I knew. But if Reggie were to get consistently 32, 33 minutes at 4,800, we'd be having a totally different conversation, Josh.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's just, what if it's 23 like it was 3 games ago?
Right, because he's not good enough to make up for the loss of minutes.
No, not in a couple years at least. I got nothing else here.
Now let's rock and roll. Move it on.
All righty. The Orlando Magic hosting the Oklahoma City Thunder. Once again, a very similar game to the first two. 108.25 implied total for the Magic, 113.25 for Oklahoma City. Monster pace-up spot for Orlando. We'll start with Vooch, 10-2 on FanDuel, 9,500 on DK, $42 on Yahoo. As far as Vooch games go, this one doesn't feel like the best one.
No, it doesn't. And Vooch has just been outrageously good. I mean, I've loved everything, and I know you have as well. Everything we've seen from him this season, he's just been excellent. But probably our better spots to go here. Now, on one hand, you've got yourself a pace-up matchup. Vooch has, found ways to pretty much dominate whoever he's faced, and I appreciate that. But you're no longer getting any semblance of a discount on Vucevic.
No, you're not.
He's remains above 10K on FanDuel. He's 9,500 on DraftKings. So we're now talking about him in the same conversation as Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid's facing the Lakers. He's $700 more than Vooch. I can assure you that I will be having a lot more Joel Embiid than Vooch today. Paul George against Orlando, 9,800. You talked about Beal, even Ben Simmons at 9K flat. We'll get into whether or not he's a great play, but he's facing the Lakers at the Staples Center. There are some spots that make it difficult for me to get there, and I think that's pretty much where I'm at. I like Vooch. Would I be surprised to see a big game? No, not even against Steven Adams.
No.
But really, at this cost, is the 50 to 55 fantasy points going to get it done? We know he can do it, but I feel like that's pretty much where you would expect him to top out. Or put it this way, hitting your ceiling is less the probability of hitting your ceiling in this matchup is far lower than it would be in many of the other ones he's seen. And $700 discount from Joel Embiid, I just don't see any way I can pull the trigger there.
We have him projected for 14% ownership on DK, 17 on FanDuel. I got 0 on my first crunch. 200 lineups.
Did you say 14 on DK?
I did.
It's actually pretty high given his salary.
I agree.
Steven Adams is a warlock, man. That guy just goes out there and makes life hell for opposing centers. Vooch is still capable of getting it done, and he can knock down threes. I'm just not huge on it. Joel Embiid, sorry.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I don't want to be with the 14% in this spot, no matter how good it looks from a pace standpoint.
I'm with you, and we'll get to some other players that make it a little bit easier not to play him there.
We will. I don't have much from this entire game. We're about to get even more controversial here. I didn't get any Russ or Paul George either.
So Westbrook is 10-6.
Yeah.
On DraftKings. That is hard for me to get away from.
I agree.
Now, how much value opens up, I really think is going to be important for this specific slate. Yesterday, it wasn't that big of a deal. I just went full balance. Like, okay, I won't play Jokic, so now you can do whatever you want, right? It was really, oh, you didn't play, but Jokic was the only guy above 10K on DraftKings. That was it. And Kyrie Irving was ruled out. So you had like Stephen Curry and Kevin Durant, who didn't do much. Curry was having a great game, but they blew him out. He played 26 minutes. Kemba Walker was like 8,900. You could just go balance because you had the Horfords and you had the Lou Wills and you had the Harrells and you had the Tobiases and all of that. On this specific one, I'm hoping that we get some value that frees up. I don't want it to be chalk, just guys that are viable, because, and I haven't made lineups yet, but pairing, a Westbrook and an Embiid on DraftKings seems viable. They're both, below 11K. Embiid's 10-2, Westbrook's 10-6. It's not like we're trying to pair Harden and Davis. Actually, it's a lot different.
Yeah. Now Embiid, which we're obviously going to get to in the late night hammer, he's the guy that's getting a large amount of my exposure. 38% on the first draft, in fact. These are all, preliminary numbers, no adjustments made whatsoever, just mild caps. And Embiid looks better. So will I end up with potentially a lineup or two of Russ or Paul George? Sure. I mean, Paul George at 9% ownership on DraftKings is an easy number to get to. Russ is at 29. I understand on paper why it's there. I'm not entirely sure I want to be there until we see what gets opened up, because I just think there are better games and better spots out there. Look, the Magic defense has been good.
They have not been bad at all. They absolutely have not been bad at all. And you're talking about a team still, though, that I expect to keep it close here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 5-point spread.
Yeah.
There's no reason to have many concerns. I was just running some lineups now, the quick 150. I set ownership cap at 50% across the board, 5% randomness just to get it moving a little bit quicker. And in terms of, and I haven't made any adjustments yet. I did get a lot of Westbrook.
Okay.
However, I also got 40% Joel Embiid. So, that I'm guessing if I look through this, that there are a decent amount of lineups with Embiid and Westbrook together.
I got a lot of Drew Holiday. That's where my point guard exposure is going.
And I have no issues with that whatsoever.
Yeah. Aaron Gordon is the guy I got the most in this game, 13%. I think that's just sort of like a really normal number. We have him projected for 15. Otherwise, every single person in this game is below that. Only Fournier hits double digits at 10%, and then it's trace amounts of Steven Adams, Terrence Ross, Grant, Schroeder, DJ Augustine. There's just not a lot here for me.
Trace amounts, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, a couple picograms for you MMA people.
Nice work. Yeah, it's just, it's a good way to kind of just flow it in there. I got a decent amount right now of Julius Randle. What's he priced at? Julius, he's
I
oh,
have a ton
that's
of him.
why 7,800 on DraftKings. Dear God.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's pretty highly owned in my center exposure, and by pretty highly owned, I mean 40%,
He hit my 50% cap.
as he should. That's
And
also why I don't end up with a ton of Vooch or
without looking,
whatever.
what do you think Randall's projected ownership on DraftKings is?
I haven't seen it, but I'd figure it's close to what my number was.
Try 9% right now.
Really? He's questionable, right?
I saw he was probable, but listed as questionable, yes.
Okay. That's why his ownership is lower in our projections.
Now I'm seeing questionable again, but I'm almost certain I saw probable. The other day I saw that yesterday or the day before I saw that he was expected to play.
Yeah.
But he is still questionable, so
that'll nerf that ownership a bit, but even still, it's going to have to climb quite a bit before he's above where I am.
If we get some good intel on that and have a pretty good idea of what we're dealing with, and Randall's still questionable going into the 7 p.m. lock, think about how nicely it sets you up, because how much heavy exposure are you really going to have from any of these 7 p.m. games?
Yeah. The good thing about it is I have no problem going into 7 o'clock lock on DraftKings with like 40% Randall, because as long as we get news before 8 o'clock, we have 3 more games after that. A very appealing Lakers-Sixers game that makes it really easy to move pieces around. You can get to someone like Aldridge on the Spurs against the Suns, which he has played like shit against earlier in the season, or Rockets and Pelicans. Like, there's a ton to get to, even if it goes sour.
That was exactly my point, is that there's 3 games that start at 7 p.m. Eastern, and you could, realistically not have a lot of any of them.
Yeah, I was going to say 3 games I don't want shit in.
Right. So, exactly. Well, I have some Westbrook I'll definitely have, but Westbrook's probably not going to affect my Randall ownership all that much.
No.
And then just you have other guys like, I do think Aaron Gordon's a pretty solid play here. These type of pace up environments for him where you're just up and down the court benefits him. He's a high energy guy that can get a lot done by, his game seemed to have changed a little bit, but he's just a very athletic, high energy dude that will be used pretty frequently in this game, especially when you've got Paul George on the other end of the floor.
Yeah.
So I do like him, but all in all, you're not getting a bounty of anyone from Cleveland or Washington or Orlando or Milwaukee or Detroit. It's going to be pretty easy to get Randall swapped in around. The recommendation here, though, is play him at power forward or the forward position or utility, of course. You play him at center, you kind of back yourself into a corner, and then you're only allowing yourself to swap at one position. Give yourself some options, at least, if you can.
Yeah. Just a quick thing to point out, as long as I don't sneeze in the middle of the sentence. Evan Fournier is $15 on Yahoo. I think that's a very nice value. He's been dreadful in the last 30 days. 0.7 fantasy points per minute. But if he's still up over 30 minutes at $15 in a pace up spot, you take your shot.
Yeah, that seems a bit discounted.
Yeah. I had a lot of him, I think Friday night before I left, and he went 1 for 10 from the field, put up like 8 fantasy points. So he and I Googled his name a couple of times just to punish myself, but he went for 5.75 DK points, 1 of 10 from the field, 0 for 6 from 3, 1 assist, 1 rebound, 1 steal, 2 turnovers, 28 minutes. You'll have a hard time finding worse lines this year.
I mean, it's really, really rough. DeAndre Jordan did something very similar to that earlier in the season in a really good spot too.
He's very Avery Bradley-esque.
Yep.
All right, you want to start getting into real games?
Man. Yes, please.
Okay. Brooklyn
Crazy
Nets.
to think that Patrick Beverley, though, like another one of those games where he has 10-10, 6-3, and 1.
Nuts.
Like Pat Bev.
Nuts. He's just filling it up.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on. Let's do it. We got only one 7:30 p.m. Eastern game.
Yeah, weird start. Brooklyn Nets hosting the Chicago Bulls. 112.5 implied total for the Nets, 105.5 for the Bulls. Second lowest implied total on the slate behind the Suns. So Nets 7-point favorites at home. We'll start with D'Angelo Russell. 8,600 on FanDuel, 8,400 on DraftKings, $36 on Yahoo. How do you want to handle D'Angelo Russell now?
I really don't mind Russ, but it's going to be so difficult to get to him.
Yeah.
At least it feels that way. I did get in my initial crunch 20%, but again, this is without making any real, cap adjustments. And like I'm looking now, there are guys that might not, like with Randle, we don't know if he's playing. There's too much Detroit in there, I'll tell you that much. That is just an awful feeling. And I'll definitely have some Reggie Jackson because right now value is scarce.
Yes.
And you're gonna have to get cheap somewhere. Again, it's not like yesterday, but no, Russell oddly played 24 minutes yesterday, right? And still got up 20 shots, Josh.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah. So now he's had 2 games where he's been, pretty disappointing. Is the price point okay? Yeah, he's priced. Adam had mentioned this yesterday. He's priced pretty close to his ceiling now. I think what makes it difficult is, are you going to go with Russell or are you going to go with Holiday?
I drew my line in the sand already.
Right. And, Bradley Beal's not that much more expensive. Russell's just kind of in no man's land there where if you're paying for him, it means you're probably not getting to other players that my guess is you like as much as I do.
Yeah, I didn't get much of anything, 1% on my crunch. The price is not appealing for me. Seeing like a decent amount of Chris Dunn is also not appealing for me. I don't tend to look at that all that much, but in this case, there's not a lot of solid defensive work coming out of Chicago outside of Dunn. And I assume that he will naturally be on Russell as much as possible. So
how many minutes do you have Russell projected for?
33.
Me too. And I actually just bumped it down.
Yeah, reasonable.
Because I don't want him showing up in my lineups. No, also because 33 is still, I don't know. His minutes are just, you with 2 games without Dinwiddie, and one of them was foul trouble. I get that, but 2 games without Spencer Dinwiddie and just a litany of injuries across the backcourt and the wings, and he's played 24 minutes in both of them.
Are you trying to tell me that it's Theo Pinson night?
Dude, the Pinsmeister putting work in. Pinson played 25 minutes yesterday, had listen, he left a mark on the Boston Celtics, a solid 4.75 fantasy points. Yeah. Theo Pinson showed up to play.
Is it Mitch Creek night?
Oh, Mitchell Creek? Yeah, Mitchell Creek doesn't play either. That dude, literally. No, he did play 19 minutes yesterday.
He did indeed.
Atkinson's going to find bodies. You know who he found yesterday? I'll be impressed if no. It was not Mitch Creek. His name is, allow me to look this up.
Jesus Christ, do I not have this guy in my database?
Oh, wait, you know what? Never mind. I'm
thinking about a different team?
Totally thinking of the wrong team. You know who I was thinking of? I was thinking of the New York Knicks.
Okay.
With Trey Burke. Kadeem Allen.
Kadeem Allen. I am very aware of Kadeem Allen.
18 minutes off. I couldn't find him. I got it wrong. Got the team wrong. It's easy to mix up both of those New York teams with all the garbage they're shoveling out off the bench.
You know where Kadeem Allen is from?
I'm going to say Anchorage, Alaska.
Wilmington, North Carolina.
So close.
Yeah. So I'm well aware of Kadeem Allen.
Look at that, man. You're just surrounded by stars.
Yeah. Yeah. Oddly enough, I just happen to know more than most about Kadeem Allen. the local guy. Yeah, I'm not gonna get to Russell. How do you want to handle chalk Rondé Hollis-Jefferson night? 40% owned on DK as of now.
So I think that is the question here. No, like I really think that is the biggest question on the slate right now when you're talking about cheap guys. I think you're going to have some Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. Yesterday, I was a pretty big proponent of going underweight on Burke and like just trying to find other ways to do it. Only because with Trey Burke, I get that he's chalk or that they're very short on depth, but like we know what Fizdale's capable of doing, and he does it all the time. I mean, Hazonia played 30 minutes the other game after not playing at all for 2 straight. And then he played 26 minutes yesterday. Kadeem Allen played 18. I'm getting to a point here. So ask yourself basically, if Jefferson, the same thing with Burke yesterday, is there a reasonable way that he can fail? And I think the initial answer from a lot was no. And I kept tricking myself into the same thing too, like no, because who else is going to play? And he's starting and everything looks great. But with Hollis-Jefferson, like, is there a way that Hollis-Jefferson lets us down entirely? Yeah, no question there is. There's no question. Does that mean that I'm going to fade him? No, but I don't know if he's a guy that I want to be over the field on. I think we should pay attention to whether or not Jared Dudley plays. To me, that does make a difference, Josh.
Yeah.
It's also worth pointing out that they are playing their second of a back-to-back, and this dude has dealt with an abundance of injuries. So does he even play? And if he does he play 27 minutes again? As much as I think you have to have some Hollis-Jefferson, I'm not confident of him being, 40 or 50% owned on a 7-game slate. That seems like a really good spot to come in very underweight on a guy who all season long has disappointed when he's been an actual viable fantasy option.
I don't have anything to add. I got 20%. He hit my cap
and I think that
of 20%, and I couldn't be happier. I didn't know. Yep. I ran this before ownership, so I didn't even have to take a look at it. But knowing where our ownership is, I think that I landed on the perfect number.
I 100% agree with that. I think you're spot. I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
If you're going to go Rondé, you get 20%. Yeah. You make sure it doesn't destroy you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a decent cash play, more so than a tournament play at this point, if you want to fit in other pieces, because 3,800 is about as appealing of a price point as you'll get on anybody on the slate right now.
Totally agree. I actually said the same thing about Burke. If you're playing Burke, he's a free square. Trey Burke, free square in cash. Yeah. Like you don't. There's no point of trying to get leverage there. It just doesn't make much sense.
No.
But in tournaments, and he didn't come in as high owned as we thought, but he was still, upwards of 60 in a lot, or above 60 in tournaments yesterday. And Trey Burke at 60% can really let you down, and Rodney Hollis-Jefferson at 40 or 50% can absolutely do the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's not just that he doesn't produce when he's out there sometimes. Is he going to be out there?
Right.
And that's the same issue we ran into with Burke.
Wow. He took 19 shots yesterday.
Did he really?
7 of 19 from the field. Didn't shoot
Amazing.
A free throw.
Oh, dude, I thought you were talking about Burke.
No,
he didn't.
Rondé Hollis-Jefferson.
Rondé took 19 shots. That's amazing.
I assume that's the most.
People are going to see that.
Yeah, look, that's the most he took all year. Did he take more last year ever?
There you go.
He took 21 in a game.
21.
That's the only game I've seen over 20.
Atkinson has been asking him and telling him to shoot threes for 2 years now.
That's the second most shots he's taken in a year and a half.
That's a lot.
In a throwaway game yesterday.
He doesn't want to shoot threes. Atkinson's asked him to. He doesn't want. Hollis-Jefferson's story is actually really cool, by the way. If you're ever interested, there's some really good pieces written about him. Very likable guy. Yeah. Miserable life that he went through. But here's the way to put it, and I'll leave it at this. At 3,800 against the Bulls, especially if Dudley's out. Is Rondae Hollis-Jefferson a good on paper play? Yes, of course he is. Don't get that confused with us saying, is there also a very good chance that chalk Rondae Hollis-Jefferson can be an excellent fade? And that's just the way he's a good play, but really think about how often Rondae Hollis-Jefferson in a spot like this burns you from not playing him, even at a discounted price. Like Burke, there are so many ways that playing Hollis-Jefferson can go wrong, whether it's minutes or lack of performance or the second of a back to. There's just a lot of ways that it can go wrong. And how many ways are there that it can really go so right that not having Rondae Hollis-Jefferson puts you out of the money before the next game even starts?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to need like 40 from him for you to be like, to really, really regret it. I'll take my chances. He's just a conduit to getting bigger things elsewhere, is really all that there is. He could just as easily take 7 shots like he normally does.
Yep.
Exactly. You know how I said he took 19 shots? You were saying that Atkinson wants him to shoot more threes. He shot 1.
He did.
Shot 1.
Yeah, I know. Yep, 1-3.
18
I don't
shots,
know if he wants
not from 3 yesterday, and didn't go to the line once.
Crazy, right?
I mean, that's a pretty narrow band of where you're taking those shots that you never get fouled.
Yeah.
Because they're not a lot of those are coming at the rim.
That's a good point. I'm actually, just because I'm curious, looking up yesterday's shot chart. My guess is that, it's not the most beautiful thing we've ever seen. So yesterday,
it's going to be a lot of dots in that 15 to 18 band.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 of them came in the paint.
No shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's more than I would have expected.
2 of them were on the elbow, strong side, 1 on the weak side. 2 of them at the top of the key. Yeah, and 14 in the paint.
How do you take
That's
14
amazing
shots
that
in
he
the
didn't
paint,
get
not
fouled. That's
Yeah.
amazing that he didn't get fouled on that many. So 1, yeah. I'd say almost all 14 of them were at least like 6 feet from the basket, or 6 feet or fewer from the basket.
Insanity.
1, 2, 3.
Weird.
4, 5, 6.
Well, if it helps.
Yeah, 14 from 6 or less.
Oh, this won't matter. Bulls are middle of the pack in free throw rate defensively, so in case thought they were going to get hacked up here, and it's not happening.
And again, we're not saying this is a bad spot for him at all.
All the little bit of Markkanen, little bit of Portis. I'm not really finding this game to be all that awesome.
Man, the whole Portis thing has been really difficult. If Portis were to start in this game, so I could, somewhat rely on his minutes,
yeah,
I would love him here. I loved him against the Clippers, and he was perfectly fine. Wasn't a monster, but 18 and 14. If he had done anything from a peripheral standpoint, we would have been really happy, right? Like usually 18 and 14, you mix in an assist, a couple assists, a block, a steal, you're getting up towards 50. Not him.
Yeah, no.
But he plays 19 minutes the following game in a game that was decided by 3 points. They lost to Cleveland.
We have him in for 0% ownership right now. He's 6,400 on DraftKings, 5,700 on FanDuel. I have him in for 30 minutes.
Boylen keeps going back to Robin Lopez. I think it's his willingness to play defense, and I was reading up on that as well with a Bulls beat writer the other day. Like, really? I mean, Robin Lopez, is this what we're doing? All right, fine. But Portis in this spot would be spectacular. The funny thing is, like,
does it surprise you that Boylen likes Robin Lopez, though?
No. Well, actually, I don't really know much about this Boylen. It's a different Boylen, so.
Well, I think we've learned a lot over the past couple weeks. Bit of a disciplinarian.
Yeah, I guess so.
Seems to be a vet guy, I would imagine.
Right. But Robin Lopez hasn't exactly been a team guy. He's been in some fights, and he's gotten into some stuff. And
yeah.
If you were to tell me that Lopez was going to play 26 minutes in this game, like he did last game, I'm not kidding. I would have a decent amount of interest in him. I really would. 26 minutes from Lopez at the 5. against this Brooklyn Nets front court, I would be interested, but you have zero idea what we're getting here. Just absolutely, it's too hard to tell. Remember, he started 3 games ago, and Portis played 33 minutes. Lopez played only 15, and then he started. And then Lopez starts the next game, or sorry, Portis starts the next game, and Lopez plays 8 minutes, right? While Bobby Portis plays 34. So you're like, okay, Portis 33 plus minutes in back-to-back games. This is good. We're getting somewhere. And then Lopez plays 26 minutes the very next game.
Yeah. I got nothing, man. I can't wrap my head around this stuff. I have him in for 15 minutes. I don't know.
Or Portis or Lopez?
Portis. No, Lopez. Sorry. I have Portis in for 30.
Okay. What do I have Robin Lopez at?
There's I have no confidence in that number. But
yeah, I have Lopez at 17, but
yeah,
we don't know.
No.
Like, we really don't have any idea.
No. Does Jabari play 10 minutes or 24? Does Antonio Blakeney play at all?
Right.
Is Wayne Selden going to play 38 minutes again? Like,
right. And the thing too is that when you're looking at these minutes, you know, between Portis and Lopez, you've got almost all of the minutes. So like last game, it was 40 almost 46 minutes between the two of them.
Yeah.
And then I believe you got Markkanen playing like between 2 and 3 minutes at the 5 per game. Yeah. Jabari's not getting those minutes. So it's really, they're fighting, the two of them fighting between themselves, you know, or really Boylan doing this on who's going to get these minutes. You know, the game prior to that, Portis plays 34, Lopez plays almost 9. That's 43 minutes. You got 5 extra minutes somewhere. So almost all of the center minutes, sometimes all of them, sometimes 43 and you leave 5, are coming from Portis and Lopez. We just don't know where. And that's pretty frustrating against this Brooklyn Nets front court. It might be something you're willing to roll the dice on in tournaments if you can get one of these guys at a good price, particularly Portis. Like, what's Portis at on? Like, he's 57 on FanDuel.
Yeah, it's craziness. His price on DK, relatively speaking, is about 54. As bad as it gets. He probably has the worst differential of anybody playing today.
What's he at on Yahoo?
He is $19.
$19. You know, that's very reasonable as well.
Yeah.
So at 5,700, we have him at 12% on FanDuel, which makes sense. But for like, that's a spot where obviously tournaments, but you're willing to take a risk there because, dude, if he gets 30 minutes or more, Portis could demolish this Brooklyn front court, and you'd be real happy about it at 5,700. Even if he plays 23 minutes, there's a very good chance Portis doesn't kill you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to have some here. Nothing crazy. Like I said, I got 10%. I'm perfectly happy to stay at that number. Just enough that I can be around if he goes for 45.
Yeah.
I don't have much else here. A little bit of Napier, a little bit of Damari Carroll, a little bit of Jared Allen, a little bit of Joe Harris. You know, these are just breadcrumbs.
Pretty much. For me, it will depend on, you know, what these injuries look like. You know, is it possible that Hollis-Jefferson doesn't play on the second of a back-to-back? I don't know. Maybe. Is Treveon Graham going to play?
I have him in right now. That's only relevant for other people's minutes. It's not relevant for Treveon Graham.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with Dudley, so pretty certain
to be dead.
Yeah, I have him listed as out.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. The guy was he was we saw him getting some minutes. Yeah. And it was so the only reason he hasn't played since the 9th is strictly because of the injury. Prior to that, he had been getting run. They have so many injuries though. Like, if you look, Karis LeVert's still out, Dinwiddie's out, Alan Crabb is out, Zanan Musa, whoever that is out.
Oh, come on. That's the one you can't pronounce?
Dude, his name is spelled DZANAN. No, yeah.
Right? Those letters don't go together. That's how I feel about Z's being J's.
Yeah, at least it's followed by a vowel.
That's true.
Trevion Graham, Jared Dudley. They got a lot of injuries here. I actually like Ed Davis in tournaments. I don't think he's a terrible play at all. I think he's got a strong ceiling, even given that he's playing off the bench and Hollis-Jefferson's back. Davis is not a tournament play that I hate on a slate that doesn't have a lot of value. I wish he had power forward eligibility. That's what makes things difficult. Because he doesn't, it's tougher to get him in there. But 23, 28 minutes over his last 2 games, solid production in both of them. We know that he can put up monster rebounding totals, get a couple putbacks, give me 10, 12 points. Davis isn't the craziest play if you're looking for value. And actually, if you're looking for a pivot off of RHJ, unfortunately, you can't play him at power forward. But I could see Davis having a pretty solid game, and he's basically the same price as Hollis-Jefferson on DraftKings, $300 difference.
Yeah, we haven't projected for 15% ownership today.
Davis?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Still a lot lower than Hollis-Jefferson, but still.
Yeah. Wanted to point that one out.
Actually, on FanDuel, Ed Davis is 4,300, Rondé is 4,400, and they're actually both power forward eligible.
19% for Rondé Hollis-Jefferson right now, 14 for Ed Davis on FanDuel. People loving their Ed Davis.
Like Hollis-Jefferson on FanDuel, you said, what is it? 19?
Yeah.
So that's not that big of a difference. Yeah, okay. If it was, I'd say go to Davis all day. And that's
I would agree. Yeah. Get your Ed Davis, baby. People love their Ed Davis. Now, I got 0. So there's that.
Did you cut 0, huh?
Wasn't even in my player pool.
I got 8%.
Look, if you play Ed Davis, you're playing him with a very specific, Ed Davis is not a guy that pops up in optimizers. If you're making any adjustments, Ed Davis is a guy that you need to sort of plan to play with a specific roster construction. Like, very specifically not getting Jared Allen or probably Rondé Hollis-Jefferson with it. You need him to play, and those guys can't. Then
let's talk about a good game.
That'll work.
Yeah, let's talk about a good game. I would enjoy that.
3 games left. They're the more appealing games of the slate. So hit that like button. Houston Rockets taking on the New Orleans Pelicans.
Oh, Josh, I'm sorry. Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen's at 6,600 is a perfectly fine play against Brooklyn.
He's the only guy on the DraftKings side in double digits for the Bulls. He's at 10%. I got 14. I just think that's sort of where it should be.
Yep, I think that's perfectly fine. But he's definitely not a bad play here against Brooklyn, and his price is down, and he's producing. So I have no issues with Lauri. I want to get that out there.
Hey, you're good. I feel the same way. Hit that like button, everybody. We're a little bit over the halfway point. Houston Rockets taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. 122 implied total for the Rockets. Highest on the slate by a mile. 112 for the Pels. Rockets 10-point favorites here. God damn. Ooh, Pelicans are in rough state right now. It's going to get a little bit... Well, honestly, they could end up being a better team if they make the right Anthony Davis trade, but that'll be a not popular opinion. Start with Harden. 13.9 on FanDuel. 13.6 on DraftKings. $64 on Yahoo. Chris Paul is back. How are you managing James Harden?
I just don't think I'm getting there today.
Okay.
I mean, and of course, he comes out with Chris Paul in his first game. Harden drops 72 fantasy points. He's amazing. He's just incredible. He is just absolutely spectacular. But Chris Paul is going to be playing. I wouldn't be surprised. D'Antoni said he's going to keep him in the mid-20s. I think he gets up when he says mid-20s. I think he gets closer to 30. Right?
I have 28 right now.
So do I. Okay. So yeah, closer to 30. I mean, it's a really good matchup for James Harden. There's no question. Like, it's a really good spot.
Yeah.
And Pelicans have struggled mightily to defend really anybody, but somebody like James Harden, who just is dominant from beyond the arc, can create separation in a phone booth. He does so many things well, and against the Pelicans, I expect him to have a very strong game. The Pelicans are allowing the third or second highest 3-point percentage to opponents on the entire year. They're allowing the where is it? The third most 3-point attempts on the season, second most made 3-pointers on the year. They're doing a lot of things that really benefit Harden. They're allowing like the seventh most free throw attempts. It's all really, really favorable for Harden. If Paul was out, I'd have Harden probably in every lineup. But I still think at this price he needs to come down a little bit. At 13.6, you need, I don't know, what's enough for you at this price?
Harden?
Yeah. What would you be happy with him scoring at 13.9 on FanDuel, 13.6 on DraftKings?
65.
Really?
70. Happy? I mean, I know I'm not dead. A lot of that has to do with how the rest of the pay-up options go. I mean, it's not helpful.
I don't think you'd be dead. I definitely don't think you'd be dead with 65 from Harden. But
I mean, 70 is the threshold you're looking to cross.
Okay, and that's where I was going with it as well. And even so, I just see. I know Westbrook hasn't been nearly as dominant as Harden has, but he's also $3,000 cheaper than Harden on DraftKings. That's a significant discount. That goes from pairing Harden with a garbage punt or with, a Lauri Markkanen. It's like Lauri Markkanen or, Rondé Hollis-Jefferson. You could definitely make the argument that it's Rondé Hollis-Jefferson there. But if I'm talking Joel Embiid and pairing Embiid with, you get where I'm going with. Like, there's so many other play, like a Rajon Rondo or I'll go up. Randall's even inexpensive. And then I think you can get Westbrook and Embiid in same lineups, or if you wanted Paul George, as you were talking about. For Harden, on a night like this where Westbrook and Embiid have nice price points, I'm not saying that they have the same ceiling right now as Harden. Maybe they do. Chris Paul being back makes a big enough difference for me that him being that much more expensive than everybody else is now making it a lot more difficult to pull the trigger.
Yeah, Sebadiah in chat says if Harden hits value, you better run back Pels. I don't agree with that at all. I'll be running back Pels because I think they're in good spots, but James Harden does not need the Pelicans to be in this game for him to hit value.
No, right, because who else is going to do it? The other night,
he's not going to stop shooting.
Right. I tweeted something the other night. It said solid team effort in the first quarter by the Rockets, and they had scored 18 points in the first quarter. James Harden had 15 points and 1 assist. So he scored 15 of the 18 points and assisted on their only other bucket in the first quarter.
Yeah. I don't need the Pels to keep it all that close. I'm running back the Pels because I think that they are priced better they have value relative to their own salary. It doesn't have anything to do with James Harden.
Right. I was going to say, don't misconstrue that as I don't want to run back Pelicans, because definitely have a lot of interest in the Pels. I actually think we could spend less time on this game just because for me it's a little bit more clear cut. I really like
we got
Drew.
A lot to talk about in this game.
Oh yeah, I mean we do, but what I'm saying is I'm not on the fence with a lot of these guys. If Randall plays, $7,800 Randall, I love it. Even 86 on FanDuel, he's power forward. I love it, assuming there's no limitations here. And then you talk about Drew Holiday. I love that as well. A little more on DraftKings where he's 8,600 and he has 2 position eligibility. And then the biggest question is, what do you do with Jahlil Okafor, who over these last 4 games is producing almost 1.25 fantasy points per minute, only has a 22% usage rate, which actually isn't bad because all of his shots are coming around the rim, an 18% rebounding rate. He's been very good, and it's a crazy thought, but Jahlil Okafor has been very good, and he's also blocking shots. Where do you stand on Jahlil Okafor tonight against Houston?
I got 35% on my first crunch, and we haven't
Wow,
projected.
Matt, did you ever think you'd be paying 60-100 for Jahlil Okafor and getting him in a third of your lineups?
Not unless they started playing fucking G League DFS.
It's crazy.
I didn't see that happening in the NBA this season.
No, exactly. Oh, you said I didn't hear what you said. Yeah, exactly. If you're playing now, what about 72 on FanDuel though?
I'll be less interested. Let me see what I got of him. I think I got like 19 or so, if I remember correctly. 17.
Okay.
We haven't talked about the two biggest stories on the Houston side. How do you want to manage 35% owned Eric Gordon or 25% owned Kenneth Faried?
Well, first I want to say that I actually like the idea that Okafor is facing somebody like Faried.
Yes.
Because you don't have to worry about Faried getting outside shots up.
Right.
That is something that could hurt Okafor. And he is a guy that, unlike Drummond, if you're pulling him away from the basket, he's pretty useless. And then you might see Alvin Gentry take him off the court. Faried's a high energy guy. He has a motor that never dies. But that's chasing, crashing the boards and getting putbacks. And it's not somebody that is, scrambling around the offensive possessions in the half court and you have to chase him around. That's not Okafor, or that's not Faried. So it definitely helps Okafor. In terms of what to do with Faried, I've been a massive Faried fan forever. So first off, I'm really happy that he's found a place where they're giving him minutes. And I think even when Capella returns, I expect Faried to be the backup and Nene and Chris not to get like any minutes at all. Agreed. I think Faried will still, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if Capella's minutes come down a little bit just to keep him fresh.
There's no reason that they should play Clint Capella like 35 minutes a game now.
Right. Give Faried 18, 20 minutes.
Yeah. He should play 20 a game, play Capella 28. If it's close late, he gets to 30, 31 or something like that. But there's no need any longer. You're not playing. Not playing to beat the Grizzlies on a Thursday.
Right. Capella's a better defender though. So 30 minutes, 32 minutes, whatever. But now you actually have a good backup that fills his shoes quite well. Not fully, but does a lot of things similarly. He can operate in the pick and roll. He's obviously somebody that you can use in lob situations. Defensively, he never stops moving. Not a bad rebounder. All of that stuff is similar to Capella. Faried's price has come up quite a bit, but if you're getting him at this price and he's playing 36, 38 minutes in regulation, I'm still not opposed to Kenneth Faried, because I still think there's a little bit of meat left on the bone. Not a ton, but I'm on Faried again. I actually haven't projected for more fantasy points than Okafor today.
I do as well. I got 35% Faried. The fact that he has power forward eligibility is the main appeal here. He's just a center. It's different, but now that you can put him in a couple different places, it makes this a much easier line to take. I will be probably with the field at that 25% number, maybe a hair over, but I can't get away from it. Eric Gordon for 35%, I want to be under though.
All day. Whenever a shoot first scoring dependent guard is projected to have massive ownership, I usually am not on board because there's a simple reason for it. Even a decent game from Gordon is very unlikely to ruin your night if you don't have him.
Yep.
Like Eric Gordon, I say this seriously, not hyperbole. Eric Gordon needs 35 real points to make it hurt.
Mm-hmm.
if you're not playing him. Because if he scores 30 points, he's probably going to finish with like 38 fantasy points, and that'd be fine at 5K. Don't get me wrong, but you can get that elsewhere.
Yeah.
And it's not like he's probable to score 30 points. Let's not forget, dude. Maybe people are forgetting. Eric Gordon with Chris Paul and James Harden on the court is really not a guy that that you expect to be efficient. He's not a guy that me personally, or that I personally would want in a lot of my lineups. I know that they stagger minutes with Harden and Chris Paul, but now Gordon's going to be playing all of his minutes with at least one of those guys on the court, and I don't see myself getting there, Josh. It's difficult.
I'll have some, but I will definitely be under that number for most of today.
Yeah, I mean, he's played 218 minutes with both of them. 15%. Is he going to start? You know,
I mean, the appeal here is that he's played 37 minutes in all 3 of his last 3 games.
Right. Is he going to
start? What you're buying is playing time.
Yeah, but with a guy like him, that playing time can become very empty very fast.
I mean, can it on this team?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Dude, he started with Paul and Harden. He started that game. I would at least rather have him off the bench, honestly. He started, and here I'm talking about this in the context of his ownership.
Yeah.
I see it a little bit differently. He started, still played 37 minutes. We both have Paul at 28 minutes, so we have him playing a few more minutes than he did last game. Yeah. So in 37 minutes, let's say 18 of them come with both guys on the court. 15% usage, 0.47 fantasy points per minute, 0.47 fantasy points per minute with both of them on the court this year. If you take Paul off and you just put Harden on, yes, it's going to be better, but he's not an efficient per minute guy, and if he's going to be a 30%, 0.72 fantasy points per minute with Harden on and Paul off, I could run it with Paul on and Harden off, but I would just be wasting everyone's time because the type of numbers we're going to get. That's enough right there for me to say, yeah, I'll let someone else play Eric Gordon.
That's fine by me. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, he's the first guy whose ownership goes away for me as value opens. He's basically just a product of the slate for me right now.
I hear you.
Look, the Rockets have a 122 implied total. It's the biggest number on the slate by 4.5 points over the Spurs. We have tons of teams. The large majority of these teams are in like the low 110s to even to the high hundreds. So the Gordon love for me is strictly a pace total play on a guy that could be around to shoot a bunch.
Sure. And to be clear, I came up with a lot of him in my initial crunch, but I haven't adjusted for anything yet.
Right. So yeah. I'll be under the field if he stays at that number by half, I would assume.
I'm gonna hopefully be even further under than that.
I get it. Drew Holiday?
Not a fan.
Of Eric Gordon.
In this spot, yeah. Yeah, of course not. I already meant, yeah, I won't spend much time on Holiday. I like Holiday, whether Randle plays or not. I have plenty of love for Holiday here.
I hit 40% of Holiday and 40% of Randle on my crunch.
Okay, and makes perfect sense.
I love these dudes.
I know Elfrid Payton being back doesn't help Holiday. The numbers bear that out, but I'm not really that worried about that. And I actually think, if you're getting away from Gordon and you're looking for another guard, I know it's not the same position. It's not a lateral move, but like Elfrid Payton at 5,400 to me is perfectly reasonable as well. He's sketchy. He's strictly a tournament play, but I think you get up to 32 minutes in this game. Not the craziest player. I'll probably have 10, 15% Payton. I'll keep it low. But yeah, Drew Holiday, obviously somebody that both of us like for obvious reasons. And then if Randle plays, him too, and Okafor. And on the other side, I still have interest in Kenneth Faried for the reasons that we discussed.
I think we're all over this one. I agree with your Randall or with your Peyton take. I had like 10% on the crunch. I'm more than okay with that. I don't want much
I
else
feel
here.
fine. Well, if Randall's out,
who knows?
if Randall's out, then you know where we're going, right? Glutton for punishment, man. Darius Miller. He'll play 30 plus minutes. Nobody likes playing Miller less than I do.
God, is it Solomon Hill night then too?
I don't know. Could be.
Let's just hope that Randall plays so we don't have to make those sorts of decisions.
Exactly. Yeah, Miller played 38 minutes with Randall out against OKC in that close game.
Dude.
And then against San Antonio, they lost by 12. But that game was, it was a 20-point deficit going into like a couple minutes into the fourth quarter. And Miller, he didn't start, but he came in like 4 minutes into the first quarter. 26. Let's see here. Yeah, Solomon Hill started. What did he play? 30 minutes in that game? Dear God.
Yeah.
Let's hope Randall plays. You're right. You're absolutely right.
I don't want to think about it any further.
Nah, I'm with you.
San Antonio Spurs hosting the Phoenix Suns, 117.25 implied total for the Spurs, 103.25 for the Suns, 14-point favorites at home. No DeMar DeRozan here. I have tried to slam LaMarcus Aldridge into my lineups against the Phoenix Suns this year. It has gone incredibly poorly. He laid one of the ugliest eggs of his career against the Suns in the first game they played this season. Gave me a brutal, brutal beating. But that was a different time, different game. I don't pay attention to individual matchups like that. However, Marcus Aldridge is not popping up for me. 8,800 on FanDuel, 8,700 on DraftKings. How do you want to manage Aldridge? Is not. 28% expected ownership on FanDuel right now, 16 on DraftKings. I had 1.
I have none right now.
Yep, I get it.
And again, haven't really adjusted for much. There are some guys popping up, and I know why they are, and they shouldn't be. But yeah, with Aldridge, it really just comes down to there's better value elsewhere. Even at similar spots. DeRozan here is out, which definitely makes you second guess not having much Aldridge. Yeah, this is I think you're right. I think you're right to point this out as kind of a tough one.
Yeah, I just prefer other guys in that price range. Is really the easiest way to say it. Would you rather have LaMarcus Aldridge or Drew Holiday tonight?
Yeah. And then Randall's like $900 less expensive.
Yeah, I certainly want him. I prefer Bradley Beal if I want to go a little bit higher than that number. It's just not there for me.
No.
I understand why he's appealing on FanDuel at 8,800.
I get it too. And it is Phoenix.
Yep. Which is something I've thought before that didn't work out. But 8,800 on FanDuel, knowing you have to play 2 power forwards with Blake at 10K. Otherwise, it's Randall, it's Faried, it's Aldridge in this case, or you're playing down for Holmes or Portis or Aaron Gordon. So there's not a ton to like on FanDuel. I understand why the ownership would go there.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, absolutely. And on FanDuel, Julius Randle is only $200 cheaper.
Yeah.
And as you said, Faried $7,400. I like Aldridge significantly more on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings, but so does everybody because Aldridge DraftKings ownership is projected at 16%, a whole lot lower, and for obvious reasons, we just laid him out. I think if you wanted to get away from that, Rudy Gay, I know he only played 27 minutes last game, but I don't have an issue with Rudy Gay with DeRozan out.
No,
he has pretty
30 on FanDuel, 21 on DK right now. I understand it, but I'm not going to be over those numbers.
I hadn't looked at ownership yet.
Yeah, I'm not going to end up over that stuff.
No, it's disappointing.
Yeah, this first crunch is basically given me lots of bites at this game in different ways. So 20% Rashawn Holmes if he plays, 15% Gay, 15% White, some Okobo, Forbes, Oubre, Josh Jackson. It's really hard to prioritize any one guy coming out of this game, but there's like 10 potential options.
Right. Yeah, and so many of them, though, give you that same impression. Like, if I don't play them, is it really going to destroy me?
No. This is a very good game to like rotate ownership. Like Rashawn Holmes is at 42% ownership on DraftKings.
Wow.
I'm not going to have that much. Spoiler alert.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That is incredible.
That's also a testament of where value stands today.
Right. And look, Rudy Gay has a 28% usage rate with DeRozan off the court this year.
Yep.
Right? Almost 300 minutes.
Yep.
He has a 21% assist rate, which for him is actually really good. 1.27 fantasy points per minute, DraftKings points per minute. Those are really good numbers at 5,900, especially if you're hoping he gets up to, 30 minutes. Like Rudy Gay is, I good chalk or bad chalk, whatever. But I think that Rudy Gay is a very fine play at $5,900. And then on FanDuel 6K.
Yeah.
I totally, as you said, I totally understand why he's going to carry ownership into this slate.
I'll be in that area.
Phoenix. Yeah.
I'll be in that area.
The biggest thing is that none of them play by the fourth quarter, but what are you going to do?
Yeah. I will be very much under the 42% of Rashawn Holmes if that holds.
Man, that is crazy. 42% Rashawn Holmes. And he's not like minimum salary either, right?
No.
He's 5K on FanDuel. Whew.
I'm cool with
47.
like 20%.
What's that?
I'm cool with like 20%.
Yeah. Dude, Holmes has the highest projected ownership on FanDuel too. That's nuts. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah.
Against San Antonio. Yeah. Wow. That to me is shocking. I thought he'd be, around 20% projected. But the highest projected player by a pretty wide margin, man. People love the flavor of the week, I love that the newest value that pops up.
They do indeed. Not for me today.
And I feel like everyone's been waiting on Holmes, but he just kept being ruled out before the game.
I got sick of projecting him questionable over and over and over again.
I know, right?
I got nothing else here. I mean, 17% expected ownership on Josh Jackson right now. No, thank you.
That's a tough one to get to.
Yeah, I'd rather just have a little bit more of Kelly Oubre or something in that case.
Right. I was going to say Kelly Oubre continues to play really well. The usage is still strong. And one thing that you have to like about him is that unlike Jackson, a lot of Oubre's minutes are coming with Booker off the court.
Yeah.
If you're trying to draw a difference there and compare the two and you're having trouble, well, having Booker off the court is a big differentiator. That's a big deal. And Oubre's getting run with Booker off the court, and with Booker off the court this year, his rates are really, really solid.
Yeah.
So I think Oubre's a fine play. Actually, not a bad pivot off of a chalk Rudy Gay when you think about it. And he's been if you're worried about a blowout, he's been getting run through those in the fourth quarter. Just before we move on, what are your thoughts on Devin Booker?
I got none.
8,100 on DraftKings. Say that again.
I think I got 0. Nope, I got 1%.
Because he's 8,100 on FanDuel as well, which is I got 2%, which is not a lot.
There's just too many guys. Similar story to Aldridge. He's only $600 cheaper than LaMarcus Aldridge. I just prefer dudes in that area more than him. I'd rather go all the way down to Jimmy Butler at 6,900.
And if we know anything about Popovich, this isn't just like anecdotal evidence. We know that Popovich will when you have a team like this, where if you take one player out of the game, you basically stall the entire engine. That's kind of what Booker is
Yeah.
to the Suns.
Oh my God.
If
Yeah.
you, right,
Especially with no TJ Warren.
exactly, if you successfully take Devin Booker out of the mix and just create massive inefficiency, just brick up shots. It doesn't matter if Ayton plays; he's doubtful anyway. It doesn't matter if Oubre has a good game or if Jackson has a good game. You slow Booker down. That's the key. I'm acting like you're in there game planning for Phoenix, but you understand what I mean.
I do.
And by the way, Pop had an interview the other day where they asked him like, "Hey, Ben Simmons, what do you think? Watching tape on him?" He's like, "I don't care. Basketball is boring. I don't watch tape on other teams. Is our team winless? Are we undefeated? No, which means we means we can be better, which means we aren't good yet, which means I only watch tape of my own team." And basically, he said, "I don't watch tape of other teams." I love Pop, and I wanted to say that because all of his interviews are amazing. And he's just gonna take Booker out of the game. Make life tough on the kid.
Yeah, I don't expect to be around that 6% number. As weird as that sounds. I'm not really interested in Booker here.
No, me neither.
Want to close this one out?
Let's do it.
The Los Angeles Lakers hosting the Philadelphia 76ers. 110.25 implied total for the Lakers. 116.75 for the Sixers. 6.5-point favorites in LA. We'll start on the Lakers side. This is a monster pace matchup. 6,900. The most expensive guy on FanDuel, Rajon Rondo. 67 on DK. I got a lot of Rondo. I needed to start there because I got a lot of Rondo.
I am obviously I said this and you're like, not his behavior, right?
Yeah.
I talk about, oh yeah, I love Rondo. No, I love Rondo's grit. All right. I love it. And he's actually pretty fun to watch, even though you can make the argument that he really doesn't help teams out. Over the last 30 days, the Lakers are playing at the second fastest pace in the league. The Sixers are playing at the third fastest pace. And here is their pace. So possessions per 48. Lakers, 103.69. Sixers, 103.68.
Nice.
0.01% pace per 48 difference there. Point is, this game's going to fly, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see so many opportunities, but the big thing is, let's say, okay, maybe it's not reflected in the scoring, and both teams are really inefficient. There's still going to be a whole lot of extra rebounding opportunities, block shots opportunities, ball stealing, facilitate, you name it. Like
Sixers like to cough that ball up too.
They absolutely. The elevated pace just creates so many more opportunities for everyone, and it might, okay, maybe an extra like 10 possessions from another game doesn't seem like a lot, but you take whatever you can get, and it could be more than that. But I'm with you on Rondo. 42 minutes last game, dude.
Yeah, I have him in for 35 today.
Yeah, I have him higher than that. Because he played.
I wasn't comfortable going higher than that because of how much I got at 35.
Actually, that's a very good point. Let me see. I haven't even looked. I'm just saying in my head, I expect him to. I have him. Look at that, 35 too.
Yeah, I mean he played 42 in the last game, 37 before that. There is more to like then. He can play 40 minutes today.
And remember that 37 in that he played. That was his first game back from a month-long hiatus.
Yeah.
That was his first game back.
He's just, dude's a gangster when it comes to this shit.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's you've got to look at someone like Rondo and say, yeah, I see why I could like him. He's going to get huge minutes here. in an elevated pace. Well, Sixers matching their pace is not something you see very often.
No,
So I'm with you. The price is getting up there a little bit.
it
And
is.
last game, per minute, he was pretty rough. But I really don't care. Like, if you're giving me 35 to 40 minutes, like, projecting him at 35 is reasonable, and that's where I have him as well. But I actually think that he's going to play more than that because he has in his first 2 games back.
Yeah. X Caustic said I must have missed when Rondo became a great shooter or something. He's actually been a really solid shooter. He's 39% this year. A little bit down for the Pels the year before that, but 38 for the Bulls, 37 for Sacramento. He just doesn't shoot a lot. People still leave him go. He's a really good catch and shoot guy. He just doesn't have a lot of them. He's not as bad of a shooter as people think he is.
I won't comment on that because I actually don't. You're saying he's a decent catch and shoot guy?
Yeah, he knocks down open looks. It was a big story for him, like in the Boston days. He didn't want any part of that. Yeah, he's at 39% this season. Like he's been at 37 and 38.
From 3, you might want to, yeah.
Like that's good enough. I mean, people don't.
He doesn't need to. Even if he was a terrible shooter, what's that have to do with liking him today?
Right. But I just mean, like, we have guys like Russ who shoot fucking 25% from 3, and no one bats an eye at it.
Dude, Russ is an awful shooter.
He's the worst shooter of all time.
Like, Russ is a terrible shooter. How about, do we not play Ben Simmons in good spots?
Right.
I mean, Ben Simmons has dropped 60 plus in 3 of his last 7, 50 plus in 5 of his last 7. Simmons can't shoot for shit.
He literally can't shoot.
Actually, have you seen recently? Have you seen some of these turnaround, these fadeaway jumpers that have actually been, I'm not joking with you, like, 13, 14 footers that have actually been like, oh wow, did Simmons just do that? Like, actually really, really nice form. How often is he going to sink them? Who knows? And is he still a really bad shooter? 100%. But Simmons, like, Rondo is so similar to Simmons in that, well, okay, not that he doesn't have the size and the ability just to barrel his way to the basket. But when you're talking about being so much cheaper than him, is he an above average rebounder for a guard? He is.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a very good facilitator? He's an elite facilitator from a fantasy standpoint, no question.
Yep.
Can Rondo give you, I don't know, 12, 13 points in this game?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And they continue to be down a number of players, so it only makes his life a little bit easier there. Kyle Kuzma didn't practice yesterday. I still don't think I don't think he's going to play. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But if he does, I think that helps Rondo because you're opening more up, get him more dimes, at least put a couple decent shooters on the floor. I don't need Rondo to be, whether he is or isn't, I don't need him to be a good shooter. If you give me 38 or say even 35, we'll say 38 from what he's been playing, minutes of Rondo in this game, if he triple-doubled with 12, 10, and 12, not one person would be surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. And we haven't talked about if it's a good steals day, which on FanDuel obviously makes a bigger deal for you. But, I mean, he can easily pick up a couple. Philly coughs it up a ton.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, I'll bet on the minutes.
I'm perfectly
point
fine
per minute guy. You don't need much to swing the right way.
Right. You're asking whether it's a good steals day or not, by the way. The Lakers and the Sixers are 29th and 27th in turnovers per game.
Yeah.
Meaning second most and fourth most per game. And the big thing is turnover rate, again, doesn't really matter as much because they play at such an elevated pace. But in turnover rate, they're still 4th and 6th highest. 4th and 5th.
Yeah. It's great. I love it. I don't really have anything else from the Lakers side. Very tiny amount of Zubats. That's it. I don't know. 5% KCP. It's all Rondo here for me. Now, if Kuzma is out, that stuff gets readjusted a bit, but it's literally just Rondo for me.
Right.
All right. I'll let you lead off on your boys.
All right. So, first of all, I am 100% on board with Joel Embiid here. This is such a good spot for Embiid.
It is the best.
Right? Spot. He's going to be going up against the likes of Zubats.
Zubac?
JaVale What's that?
Is that Z a J? Is it Zubac?
Well,
it is now.
the C is like a TS or a TZ. Zubats, JaVale McGee, maybe some Tyson Chandler.
Yeah, which I'm sure is not terrifying.
What a dominating spot this is for Joel Embiid.
Yep.
Just an absolutely dominating spot for Embiid. And you're like, yeah, Butler's going to be back. Okay, whatever. Does it really bother you that much? It doesn't bother me that much.
Not bothering the public.
Right. It's not bothering the public. Last game Embiid played against the Lakers. He had decent numbers the two times he played them last year. His first game, a modest 46 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, and 7 blocks. That's 46, 15, 7, and 7. Right. And I'm just going back because this is fun. The second game, they play him twice. 33.7 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 blocks, and a steal. And you're talking about a Lakers team that at the center position has really done nothing to get better. Last year, sure, that he was squaring off against like Brook Lopez. They put Julius Randle on him. That worked out terribly. I remember that vividly. It doesn't matter. Maybe JaVale McGee blocks a shot or two, but there's no way when Embiid backs him down or has him on the elbow and creates that separation on the turnaround, you're not going to be able to stop him unless Embiid stops himself.
Yep. Yeah, I love him. 22% expected ownership on DK today. I got 38. I'd happily take more. 10-2 is a fantastic price tag. And I don't know what else to say. He's probably my favorite play of the day.
Yep. Me too. What are your thoughts on Simmons?
I didn't get any. I'm not terribly stoked about that. Because this game fits him like a glove. But 9K on DK. Got 10% expected ownership. He's chalky on FanDuel at 9,400. I get that. I mean, I'd rather have Bradley Beal at $200 more expensive. You could flip a coin for me between him and Blake today, as weird as that sounds.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it's close. The Pistons picking up a lot of pace in that game, I think, is kind of appealing, especially if he goes mildly overlooked, if value starts opening up. I don't know. Simmons is the guy that gets pinched out here for me. Although, if Jimmy Butler continues to be projected at 32% on DK, I don't really know where I end up because that's what I'm getting. I got 35% on my first crunch.
Butler?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's how math works. He's $6,900.
I got a lot of him too, Josh.
Yeah.
And I was a little nervous about it, but I got a good amount of Butler too.
Yeah.
I did.
That'll be the one that I take a closer look at. Because
if Kuzma sits, I do have some interest in Ingram, honestly. He's 6,400.
I agree.
I know he hasn't been great, but even 6,900 on FanDuel, like it's 6,400 is discounted. I definitely think you can get there on Ingram.
Yeah.
Aside from that, like Rondo, I'm really not somebody that has much interest in someone like Josh Hart. Caldwell Pope played 36 minutes last game, had 36 fantasy points. Okay, good enough. But Josh Hart also, keep in mind, I don't know if he's going to play.
Right.
So
look, he's barely playing. He's played 17, 21, and 20 minutes in the last 3. So
right. Right. But
I mean, if he doesn't play, it's only just a benefit to others.
Exactly. What I'm saying is that, someone like KCP would probably see another 34 minutes or so.
Yes.
And then Stevenson probably gets like 22, 23 minutes. But just keep an eye on this situation because I do think a lot can change. If Kuzma's out, look, I'm going to play Beasley. I'm going to have Michael Beasley if Kyle Kuzma sits.
100%.
26 minutes of Beasley at 3,800. Put it to you this way. Give me Beasley at that price over Hollis-Jefferson at the same price any day of the week because the ceiling for Beasley in this specific game, he can get it done.
Yeah, I mean, he's like a double the Rondé Hollis-Jefferson output type guy, which is crazy to think about. But, I mean, his game is strictly set up to play daily fantasy sports.
Right. 100%.
Yeah. Butler will be the guy that I'll pay attention to the most in terms of figuring out what potential pivots I have to still have some, but redistribute at that price point. Because 6,900 is it's too good, and I understand why people are there. That might end up being a little bit higher than it should be. But I'm going to have at least, I would assume 20%-ish or more of Jimmy Butler. It's just too good.
Yeah, I came up with a lot of Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
A good amount of Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. And I'm okay with it, but
it scares me.
It's the scary part because of his health and because of the fact that everybody is looking at the exact same thing.
Right. Where are you at before we head out? It's been a long show, but 7 games. What did you expect from you and me?
Yeah, we just crested the 2-hour mark.
Okay, so we'll close it out here. Wilson Chandler is not a very talented basketball player from a fantasy standpoint, or really from any standpoint. 36 minutes against San Antonio. 27 against Houston was a blowout. Then 34 against OKC. 32 against Indy. Like Wilson Chandler's playing 32 to 36 minutes every single game he's healthy.
Yeah, I have him in for 28 right now, and I don't really feel comfortable about it.
I have one. I came up. He popped up in one lineup.
Yeah, I don't have him with any sort of volume.
Probably because I have him projected at more minutes than you. I have him at 31 minutes.
I got him in 5%. Maybe that's higher than you would.
At 28 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, if you put him at the playing time that he's been seeing,
yeah,
you might end up with a lot of him. That's scary.
Yes, it is. And I get it for this particular spot because of the pace. I have him projected to shoot 1 free throw. Gross.
Yeah, not cool.
Yeah, so I'm anxious to see what this rotation looks like if Butler is back, what that does to Wilson Chandler's minutes and Corey Brewer's minutes. Does Brewer hold and Chandler gets less? We have not seen those 3 guys be on the floor yet.
Well, I think what would happen, well, first of all, you could just not play Furkan Korkmaz at all.
I don't have him in at all right now.
You don't have Korkmaz in? Okay.
Nope.
Jonah Bolden, just no Jonah Bolden minutes. Do you have him playing any minutes?
12. Nope.
Okay, so
yes, 12.
My guess is Bolden. I mean, he might, but no, Bolden I would put it at 0. Now that if Chandler's back and then you have Brewer and you have Butler, I think Bolden is the one to get pushed out here.
Okay.
And then instead of like 35 minutes from Chandler, 30 or 31 minutes.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, Chandler's defense has been a big thing recently in Philly. Before he went down for whatever it was this time, he had actually been playing really well defensively. They had him guarding DeRozan to close out that Spurs game, and like Wilson Chandler was the reason that San Antonio did not score on 3 consecutive possessions. So defensively, he has been making a difference lately, and the Sixers desperately needed that. So I think his minutes stay up is what I'm saying, at least 30.
It wouldn't surprise me. It's something that I'll take a closer look at and probably I'll end up more in like at the 30 or 31 mark. It shouldn't matter all that much to me. I won't be able to get more than like 10%. I just know how the cap will shake out, and I'll be okay with that just because of this game.
My HelloFresh just arrived.
The
lady and I have been doing that. Bro, the food's delicious, man. And even a dummy like me can cook it no problem.
This isn't a read, by the way.
I don't have a zester, though. I need a zester.
Ooh, yeah, you do.
They got Monterey Jack burgers I got in this one. Oh, man. Last one was smoked Gouda pork burgers.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit, man.
Is that the one
no joke.
Is that the one that you dogged me out before we started the show?
Yeah.
Nobody else knows what we're talking about.
No.
We'll just add them.
Tell you what. Gave me some trouser action. I'll put it to you that way.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is. You get motion. Like, that's the type. It's really good.
Hey, HelloFresh, really if you're looking to advertise and you happen to see this.
Yo, I'll do some killer reads for HelloFresh.
There you go.
I'll stand up and give you proof.
There you go. That seems like the good way to get out of here.
Took you a second there, but yeah.
You got anything else?
No, I think I've said enough.
Yeah, I think we probably just peaked. That sounds like you're peaking over there thinking about your pork burgers too.
Oh, yeah. Yep. We got to go.
Alrighty. Thank you guys for joining us for this marathon sesh. I've enjoyed it. Lots to talk about. I'll be in Slack most of the day. We'll have Adam with the deep dive coming out, I don't know, right before the deeper dive starts. We'll have the deeper dive from 5 to 6, then live before lock from 6 to 7. And if you're into golf, Tim and Ben will be on at 2:30 breaking down the Waste Management Open. That's all I got, everybody. Hit that like button on the way out the door. Drop a comment in if you're feeling froggy. But NBA Strategies, the promo code, 50% off your first month with us. If you want to join up at awesemo.com. And I don't know, best of luck tonight. Adios, everybody.